Hello, I'm Kelly Moore, and today I will be talking about what are the differences between clinical depression and everyday sadness, specifically major depressive disorder. We'll look at what makes depression a serious mental health condition, how it's diagnosed, what causes it, and how people recover, drawing on research theories and personal stories. So, what is sadness? We have all felt sad sometimes. Maybe you've had a bad day at work, argued with a friend, or lost something important. These moments of sadness are very normal, tied to specific events, typically pass with time or support. You might cry, reflect, and you'll eventually be able to bounce right back up. However, major depressive disorder, also known as MDD, is quite different. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, the DSM-5, diagnosis MDD requires at least 5 symptoms over a 2-week period, and one of them must be either a depressive mood almost all day, nearly every day, or a loss of interest or pleasure in most activities. Other symptoms might include changes in sleep, appetite, concentration, energy, feelings of worthlessness, psychomotor changes, or even suicidal thoughts. PsychCentral highlights some important DSM-5 updates. For example, the bereavement exclusion was removed. That means grief and loss can now count towards a diagnosis if full criteria are met. Sadness after losing someone isn't automatically excluded. Persistent depression disorder now combines chronic major depression and dithyramb into a singular category. There are new specifier with with anxious distress or with mixed features, which helps describe different presentations of depression most precisely. These changes reflect modern research and a deeper understanding of how depression can vary. Symptoms of MDD don't just make you sad. They significantly disrupt daily function. People with clinical depression might struggle to get out of bed, lose interest in activities they used to enjoy, have trouble eating or sleeping, have difficulty concentrating or making decisions, withdraw socially, experience overwhelming guilt, worthlessness, or hopelessness. Daily tasks like showering, cooking, or interacting with friends can become overwhelming for them. To illustrate how depression feels, let's turn to Allie's powerful piece, Depression Part 2. From her blog, Hyperbole and Half, she describes how her world flattened, her childhood games, once full of imagination and joy, become meaningless. Her toys, once beloved, suddenly felt like props she couldn't connect with. She says she could no longer participate in experiences. At first, the emotional deadness felt almost exhilarating, but soon she realized it wasn't freedom. It was a hollow silence. She says her life became a meaningless fog where you can't feel anything about anything, even the things you love. You're horribly bored and lonely. Allie's experience aligns closely with cognitive theories of depression. According to Ziegler, man's learned helplessness, repeated exposure to uncontrollable negative events can lead someone to believe they're powerless, which parallels her sense that nothing she does matters. Then there's Beck's negative cognitive trait. People with depression often hold deeply negative beliefs about themselves, like I'm worthless, the word nothing good ever happens to me, and the future, things will never improve. These distorted thoughts are don't just reflect depression, they fuel it. On the biological side, depression is linked to neurotransmitters di- dysregulations, imbalances in serotonin, dopamine, and neuroperfine can lead to persistent low mood, low energy, and lack of motivation. Neuroimaging studies also show that brain regions like the prefrontal cortex involves in decision making and emotion regulation, the amygdala emotion processing, and the hippocampus, which is the memory, often function differently in depressed individuals. Some cultural misconceptions that many people misunderstand depression. They might just say, just be positive, you'll snap out of it. It's just sadness. Everyone feels down. But clinical depression isn't just feeling sad, it's a medical and psychological condition. Allie's writing shows how trivializing comments can feel out of touch when you're trapped in a fog of emptiness. When someone seeks help, a psychologist usually conducts a clinical interview to ask about mood, thoughts, sleep, appetite, energy, and suicidal I- ideal ideations. They may use standardized questionnaires such as PHQ-9s or the Beck Depression Inventory. Then they compare the person's symptoms to the DSM-5 criteria, including specifiers. They also assist for medical causes or medication that might mimic depression because some physical illnesses can produce similar symptoms. Effective treatment often combines pharmacological and psychological approaches. Medication, antidepressants such as SSRIs or SNRIs help rebalance neurotransmitters, including serotonin and neurophono. This can lift mood and improve sleep and energy. Therapy such as cognitive behavioral therapy help people identify and challenge negative thoughts patterns like the negative cognitive trait and replace them with more realistic balanced thinking. Interpersonal therapy focuses on improving relationships and social support because isolation and conflict often worsen depression. In severe or treat in severe or treatment resistant cases, clin- cl- clinics might consider electrocognitive therapy or neuromodulation techniques. These are more in, intensive but be but can be life-saving when other inventions haven't worked. Why understanding this matters. Understanding the difference between sadness and clinical depression is more than an academic exercise. It helps us reduce stigma, recognizing that depression is not a choice or a moral failing. Get help earlier, knowing when someone's experience is more than just a bad day. Support recovery by advocating for effective treatment. Empathy. Allie's story reminds us depression isn't always visible and doesn't always look like sadness. It sometimes it silences em- emptiness and a deep inability to connect that deserves understanding, not just judgment. If you or someone you know is struggling with depression, please reach out to a mental health professional. You are not alone. Help is available. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, I hope you found this helpful. Let's keep the conversation going about mental health, compassion, and hope. Thank you.